Alright, middle-aged guy here, and we're going to be working on the top of the desk now. I know it's been about a week or so, but I had to get some stuff together. The ladies chilling by the pool, and I've cleaned up back here somewhat. Anyways, so what we're working with, once again, sticking with 2x4s. These are 5 feet long, 60 inches, and a little bit over 20 inches wide. So ideally, if you're trying to build, I guess, finished furniture, you want to plane these, and you want to put them through a joiner and then put them through a planer to get the boards nice and even. But I want, like I said before, I wanted a rustic look, so it's going to be a little bit different. What we're going to do with these is I'm going to sand the sides, lightly sand them, because I can't have the desk, these boards be any less than 20 inches. They got to be 20 inches at the least, and no more than 21-ish. So right now we are at, let's see here. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but bear with me. Roughly about 21¼ inches wide. So I'm going to end up sanding the sides of these right here on all of them. We're just going to sand it down, smooth it out as best we can, because we're going to have gaps. After that, we're going to use some pocket hole screws and glue to glue them together with some clamps. And let it sit overnight, and then start the sanding process. And we're gonna have to sand quite a bit to get this stuff smoothed out, but it'll be worth it. It's fine, because like I said, I want the gaps are going to be there. After we get that done, the following step is going to be the burning process again. And we're going to burn this really, really well. And then I'm going to use some epoxy, and mostly the epoxy is going to be focused on the seams. If there's any seams available or anything like that, like this part right here that's going to break out, all those voids will be filled with the epoxy. And basically the way we'll do that is we'll put some plastic on the bottom, put the epoxy across the seams, let it dry, and then sand it down, and then we're going to be ready for whatever else we got to do to the top. I haven't really decided yet. The other thing is these two boards here are going to go on the base, 17 inches from the outside of the base in. We're going to have these two, because I don't think they will, but this is just in case, they may sag. Now, when measuring these, since we're doing a rustic, it's a rustic desk, and like I said, we've haven't really sanded them down. We've burned the wood, we've stained it, and all the other good stuff. Go ahead and take measurements again, just to be sure that it's 17 from the inside to inside. And I'll show you when I install these what they look like. So I'm not gonna sand them down. I'm gonna burn them, stain them, and then install them on the base, and then we'll be working on this. So hang in there. We'll get to this shortly. And like I said, all I'm going to do, I got the wood, I guess, kind of like I want it. I'll just flip it up, light sanding on both sides, and then we'll be using these pocket hole screws to screw this all together, make like a tabletop. And then from there is when we start getting to the finishing part. The finishing part is going to be a pain in the butt, because we're doing it by hand, but it'll be worth it. Thanks for tuning in. Middle-aged guy, I'll show you some progress here in a minute, and we'll see how far along we're getting. So originally, you can tell, it's not really smooth. It needs to be sanded down just a little bit. Originally started with that and was like, hell no. So I got to take the big boy out here, and hopefully this will go quicker. So I'm going to sand all this down. It's going to be just a quick sanding. Flip it over to the other narrow side, sand that down. That way when they meet, hopefully the gaps will be closer together. And that'll be that. As far as the faces go, I'll do those after the top has been assembled. But for now, this is what we're going to do with this. So off to work I go. So just a quick, before we start, we put Gorilla Glue on both sides, right? Gorilla Wood glue. Give it a few minutes to let it get a little tacky before you start the process of putting everything together. Clamps. These are, I just bought these 24-inch clamps. This table itself is going to be about 20 inches, so we should have enough room. 1,100-pound force on these clamps, and they also work as spreaders. It was less than $20 a clamp. Okay. Now, when I was going to go buy pipe clamps prior to this, the pipe clamp itself, each one was $11.99. Plus, you got to buy the pipe. That's about $20. Unless you buy one big piece and have them threaded and cut it down there, and it's just a big old thing. So this was just a cheaper route to go, and these clamps, I think they're besties. There's a lifetime warranty on them anyways. So yeah, we went with this instead. And so as soon as I get finished, I'll show you the final prefab tabletop desktop. Hang tight. And we're on the tabletop part now. So a couple of quick things that we've done here. Let me show you. So we, like I said, we have the 4 bolt, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what we did, like I said on the last video, we ended up gluing them, putting them on these clamps. Now, a lot of these holes here that I filled in are from a different project. So I'm just repurposing some of the wood that I had in the garage for this. I'm still going to cover these up with some of the plugs. The plugs usually come in a box of like 50. They look like this. All you do is put a little glue on them, slide them in, and let them dry, and then you're gonna cut off the excess. Now, 2 choices when cutting off the excess. You can use this, which is okay. This is DeWalt. It works okay. It just takes forever because you're going one at a time. You see how many I got here. Usually don't have this many. Or we can step into the world of modern tooling and use a multi-tool. This is a godsend. Anything that can do, this can do, and then some. And there's also attachments for this, from anything from a scribe saw to routers, a little router attachment. I have a corner sander attachment for this too. This thing does everything. I love this thing. This is the greatest thing ever. Every manufacturer makes them. I prefer the cordless because there's more freedom. So this, that can go. So what you're going to do after the glue cures, about 30-45 minutes, you'll cut off the excess. This has been sitting 24 hours overnight, so I'm fixing to take the clamps off, and and then from there I'll plug these up, let them dry, and then we'll start the very tedious sanding part of it. This is the bottom side, so I may not even fill these in. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. I may not, but this is going to be the bottom. The top's on the underside right now. These clamps, you're going to hear a lot of people tell you, and a lot of people post it this way, that they'll post some underneath and some on top so they keep the pressure even to keep this from bowing out. Another easy way to do it, honestly, is just get a level. Oh, it's crap here, Jesus. Just get a level. You're going to put it on top. Make sure the bubble's in the middle. Then you know it's putting down, like, see, right there, look. In the middle. So you know it's putting equal pressure on all sides. It does the same thing. So, let me finish these plugs up, and we'll flip it over after that, and I'll be back shortly to show you that finished, well, almost finished product, so we can start sanding. Hang in there, middle-aged guy, signing off. Alright, now this is the underside of it. Like I said, we took the clamps off, went ahead and plugged these up because I'm still going to have to stain. Just a FYI, we're going to sand this probably with like a 60 grit, just to kind of get it a little smoother than it is right now, and get some of this off of here, some of these stamps off. That's the main reason for sanding this down. Since it's the bottom, doesn't really need to be sanded down anyways. All the work is going to be on the sides, the edges, and the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually, if you can see when I assemble these are just a little off because I cut them a different time. So I'm just going to get a straight edge and get my circular saw and cut these even so they're flush before I begin the sanding. And these are pretty flush, but I might just see how straight I can get it. After I get those 2 sides cut, then we'll start the sanding and then flip it over to the actual side that'll be showing, and we'll start that sanding process. And that one we're going to sand down from starting with probably a 40 grit and slowly start working our way down on the top and on the sides to a 220 before we go any further, before we do the actual burning of the wood and then the staining. So yep, stay tuned, and I'll show you this bottom side as soon as I finish sanding it before we flip it over. Alright, now so to even at the edge, we're going to use a circular saw and a straight edge. You can see I just got to cut off this little edges right here. Not a big deal. After you set your straight edge, this one's from Harbor Freight. So after you set it, what you want to do is just put a square on it just to make sure it's even on both sides. So that one's flush, and you're going to flip it around on this side here. That way you know the line's straight. So the distance from the edge of the wood is just on the sled right here. So basically you're going to push this up against here when you start, and it's just going to guide you all the way across. Sorry about that, Molly's right there. It's going to guide you all the way across, and you're going to trim off that little edge right there. Now, the other edge on this other side, it's pretty straight enough that I don't have to cut anything off of it. There's just a couple of little high ends here and there that'll come off with the sanding. So I'll get that done, and we'll be right back. Alright, just a quick update. I went ahead and sanded everything down with a 40 grit just to get a lot of the unevenness out on this. And it's just like I said, just a very rough sand. 40 grit's a very coarse grit, so it'll knock out a lot of the high spots on this. For continuity's sake, I guess I sanded top, bottom, and all the sides with the 40 grit. We're just knocking out a lot of the unevenness. From here, I'm going to resand just the top, the sides with a 60, then an 80, and then a 120. Molly says yes, 120. We're not going to do the bottom because the bottom's not really going to be seen. So basically, after we finish doing the burning and everything on the wood, we're going to seal it with polyacrylic. And then after that, we'll start the next phase, which is the epoxy. But this is going to round off the first part of the desktop build. So we've gone from the actual fabrication. I repurposed some wood, but we've gone to the assembly, the gluing, and now the sanding. And we're at a 40. From here, like I said, 60, 80, and 120 grit, just on the top and the sides. And when we pick up for part 2 of the desk build, we're going to be routering the edges. So from there, it's going to be the edges getting routered, and then the stain being applied, and then the sealant. And then after that, it's going to be the epoxy. So stay tuned. Part 1 in the books. And I'll see y'all for part 2. Little Guy signing off.